I have lived 106 years on this earth. I have buried friends, outlived enemies, and watched entire generations rise and fall. And if you give me just the next few minutes, I will tell you something that took me 76 years and more heartbreak than I can count to finally understand. Please stay with me. Before I go any further, if you have not already subscribed to this channel, I want to ask you with everything I have left in me to do that right now. Not because of a number on a screen, but because what gets shared here, the stories, the honest reflections of a life truly lived, might just be the conversation that changes the direction of yours. Hit that subscribe button. Do it for the younger version of yourself who needed someone to tell them the truth a little sooner. My name is Vincent D. Russo. I was born in 1918 in a small apartment above a bakery in South Philadelphia. The smell of bread in the morning. I can still feel it. Life was simple then, not because it was easy, but because we did not yet know how complicated we were about to make it. I have lived through 2 world wars, the Great Depression, the rise of television, the birth of the internet. I have seen the world transform itself so many times that I sometimes wonder if the world even remembers what it was. And through all of it, I spent most of my life chasing something I could never quite name. I thought it was money. I thought it was status. I thought it was being right. And I was wrong, spectacularly and consistently wrong, for the better part of 7 decades. Here is what I need you to lean in and hear clearly. Happiness never came from any of it, not from the promotions, not from the house with the 3-car garage, not from being the most important person in any room I ever walked into. The real, deep, quiet, unshakable kind of happiness came from something so simple that when I finally saw it, I laughed out loud and then cried for a week. Today, I am going to share it all with you. Let me take you back to 1952. I was 34 years old, and I was furious at the world, at my father, at my boss, at the neighbor whose dog dug up my garden. I was sharp-tongued and proud of it. I thought anger was power. I thought being hard made me strong. I walked through life with my jaw clenched, and I mistook that tension for confidence. One afternoon, a retired school teacher named Mr. Anselmo sat next to me on the porch steps while I was in the middle of one of my silent rages. He did not say anything for a long time. Then he looked at me and said quietly, "Vincent, a man who cannot control his mind is a prisoner in a palace." I dismissed it then, but that sentence followed me for 40 years until I was finally ready to hear it. And that is the first thing. Changing your mindset is not a motivational phrase. It is survival. The way you interpret your life is your life. If you decide that everything is a threat, a disappointment, or a personal attack, you will live in a constant state of war, and you will be exhausted. I was exhausted. The moment I began questioning my automatic thinking to ask myself, is this actually as bad as I believe it is, or am I making it worse? Everything shifted, not overnight. Like a door stuck for years, you have to push it more than once, but it opens, and I need you to start pushing. Do you know what I regret most bitterly? The years I spent surrounded by people who quietly drained me. Not villains, not monsters, just people who were not right for me, and I was not right for them. But I stayed because I was afraid of what it would mean to leave. I kept a damaging business partnership alive for 11 years with a man who consistently belittled my ideas. I kept friendships going out of guilt that should have been allowed to end naturally. Setting boundaries, real ones, loving ones, firm ones, is one of the most underrated acts of self-respect a human being can perform. No one told me I was allowed to do it, so I am telling you now. You are allowed to protect your energy. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to walk away from anything that consistently makes you feel small. That is not selfishness. That is sanity. And it may be the most important decision you ever make. Now, I want to ask you something honest. When did you last do something purely because it brought you joy, not because it was productive, not because someone would see you doing it, just because it lit something up inside of you? I spent decades measuring my worth by what I produced. I applied that relentless production mindset to everything, including my relationships and my inner world. I was constantly building toward something, toward retirement, toward some imagined future where I would finally be able to breathe. And in all that forward motion, I let go of toxic people only when they collapsed everything around me. Never before. I simplified nothing until simplicity was forced upon me. If I could reach back through time and grab 30-year-old Vincent by the shoulders, I would say, let go now. Do not wait for the collapse. Let go on your own terms with your dignity intact while you still have years to fill the space with something beautiful. I want to pause right here in the middle of this story, because if what I am saying is reaching something real inside of you, if you are hearing something today that you have needed to hear for a long time, please subscribe to this channel right now. Share this with someone sitting in the middle of the struggle I am describing, because sometimes a voice from 106 years of living is exactly the mirror a person needs to finally see themselves clearly. That one small action could change someone's life. When I was 61, my doctor told me my heart was beginning to show signs of strain. His eyes were kind but honest. He asked me about my routines, my diet, my sleep, my stress, and I realized, sitting in that cold office, that I had been treating my body like a rental car, pushing it hard, never checking the oil, expecting it to perform without ever being properly maintained. I had ignored my health for decades because I was too busy, too important, too caught up in the illusion that I would deal with it later. Let me be very clear with you. There is no later for the body. The body speaks to you in whispers first. Honor those whispers. Move every single day, even if it is just a long walk and a gentle stretch. Eat like you love yourself. Sleep like it is your job. These are not luxury choices. They are the foundation on which everything else in your life is built. I changed my habits at 61, and because of those changes, I am talking to you today at 106. That is not a small thing. That is everything. Around that same time, I began noticing a creeping noise in the world. The early days of 24-hour news, and later the internet, and I watched people I loved become consumed by it, endlessly comparing, endlessly outraged, endlessly reaching for the next alarming headline. I made a decision that has protected my peace more than almost anything else I have ever done. I learned to limit the noise. I stepped away from anything designed to make me afraid, inferior, or addicted to constant stimulation. This was not ignorance. This was discernment. In our current world, where distraction is a trillion-dollar industry, choosing silence and stillness is an act of radical courage. The capacity to be alone with your own thoughts, to sit quietly and not immediately reach for your phone, is a skill that will change your life. What you are running from when you run from stillness is not emptiness, it is yourself. And yourself, given the chance and the silence, is extraordinary company. Forgiveness. I want to talk about it, and I want to say something that might genuinely surprise you. Forgiving the past has nothing whatsoever to do with the person who hurt you. My father and I had a fractured relationship for most of my adult life. He was a hard man who showed love in ways that did not always feel like love. I carried resentment for him long after he was gone, long after any possibility of resolution between us had passed. And one morning at 73, sitting alone in my garden watching the light come through the tomato vines, I realized I had been loyal to a wound for decades. I had protected that hurt and kept it alive because somewhere inside me I believed that letting it go would mean what happened did not matter. But the opposite is true. Forgiving the past is not saying it was acceptable. It is saying it no longer has the authority to govern your present. The moment I truly forgave my father, my first wife, for the ways we hurt each other, and myself for the years I wasted being someone I did not even like, I felt something lift off my chest that I had not realized I was carrying. Lightness. Actual physical lightness. That is available to you too. Today, there is something that happened to me in my early 80s that I did not expect. Solitude, which I had always feared and avoided, became my greatest teacher. My wife of 40 years had passed. My children were grown with lives of their own. My social world had contracted in the way it naturally does with age, and I was left, more often than I had ever been, with just myself for company. At first it terrified me. I did not know who I was without the noise, the roles, the constant motion and purpose. But I sat with it, and slowly solitude revealed things about myself that decades of busyness had concealed. I discovered I loved poetry. I discovered I could draw, not well, but with genuine and uncomplicated joy. I discovered I had opinions about the world that were actually mine and not borrowed from the crowd around me. Embracing solitude did not make me lonely. It made me whole. And I want to tell you, especially if you are someone who fills every quiet moment with sound and stimulation, what you are running from is not emptiness. It is yourself, and yourself is worth meeting. I spent so many years chasing a definition of success that someone else had written. Bigger title, larger salary, more impressive address. And when I finally achieved those things, there was a moment, I remember it clearly, a Tuesday afternoon in November 1971, when I sat in my corner office and thought very clearly, is this it? Because I had spent 30 years climbing a ladder, leaning against the wrong wall. Redefining success is perhaps the most liberating thing a human being can do. Success, as I understand it now at 106, is waking up feeling that your life belongs to you. It is the quality of the people who surround you. It is whether those who know you best actually respect you. It is whether you went to bed last night feeling that today was a day worth living. That is success. Not the trophy, not the title, not the number in the account that no one will mention at your funeral. And this brings me to the practice that above everything else transformed the final chapter of my life in ways I cannot fully put into words. Gratitude, not the performance of it, not forced positivity of pretending everything is fine when it is clearly not, but genuine, practiced, daily acknowledgement of what is actually good. Every morning for the past 30 years, before I do anything else, I sit at the edge of my bed and I name 3 things that are real and present and true. Some mornings it is the light coming through the curtains. Some mornings it is the fact that my lungs still fill with air without any effort at all. Some mornings it is the memory of a laugh shared with someone I love deeply. This practice rewired something in me. It trained my attention to look for what is present rather than grieving endlessly over what is absent. And in the architecture of a long life, that shift in attention from lack to abundance, from loss to gratitude, is the difference between a life that feels like a sentence and a life that feels like a gift. Let me come to the end now, because even at 106, I know that the ending matters as much as the beginning. You came here today, maybe by accident, maybe by something that felt like an accident but was not, and you have spent this time with an old man who has nothing left to prove and nothing left to protect. I have given you what I wish someone had given me at 30, at 40, at 50. The truth, plain and loving and without decoration. Change how you think. Guard your energy. Let go before everything collapses. Take care of the body that carries you. Choose silence over noise. Forgive what is holding you prisoner. Sit with yourself long enough to discover who you actually are. Redefine what winning looks like. And every morning before the world gets its hands on you, name something real and good and true. You are not too late. I want you to hear that with everything I have. 106 years of living says you are not too late. The moment you change is the moment the rest of your life begins. You have more life ahead than you can currently see from where you are standing. But I can see it from here, and it is worth every single step. If this story moved you, if any part of what Vincent shared today reached into something real inside of you, then please do one final thing. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss another story like this one, like this video, so it reaches someone who needs it. And share it with a friend, a family member, anyone sitting in the middle of the struggle who needs to hear that it gets better. This is Vincent D. Russo, 106 years old, telling you with my whole heart, do not waste yours.